company.
We got the man himself in the building. Beck G, can you please introduce the man of the hour for us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming onto the Vinyl Word here at Famous Radio Live. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to present to you an interview here with Anthony Geezy Gonzalez. He is the author of 384 Months, The Sacrificial Lamb. Jeezy, as he was known in the streets, is a former manager of the Virginia-based platinum-selling rap duo, The Clips. His new tell-all memoir details the ups and downs of his life, from growing up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, running an estimated $10 million drug ring, to receiving 32 years in federal prison. Jeezy hopes that his story will be an inspiration to all who believe that nothing can break family bonds, and to those who need hope to not let their present circumstances define their future. Welcome to the Vinyl Word, Mr. Jeezy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much once again for hanging out with us today. And I want to say to you, brother, great book.
Thank you.
I had an opportunity to actually take a moment and read through it. I didn't get to go through the whole thing because I got a little bit later in the mail, but it's all good. I did get to read through a good portion of it. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the book and a little bit what you got going on and what's next for you as well. So the name of the book, one more time.
384 Months, The Sacrificial Lamb.
And the name comes from
the amount of time I got in the feds. They sentence you by the months instead of the years.
Yeah, I could imagine when you heard that sentence, and it sounds bigger, right? When people to give you that in a chunk of time, like 2 years versus 24 months, it's like wait a minute.
I still thought I was going home when they said 384 months.
Oh wow!
Because I didn't really think it was 32 years when they said months. I'm like, months. Oh, I'm going home in a few. I looked back I looked at my wife and she was like, that's 32 years. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, that's a tough way to give that sentencing. But you did some time, and we're going to talk about what led up to that. But reading through the book, it was very interesting, especially in the beginning, how you laid out your childhood growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, and then going to high school and seeing family members coming up through the ranks, which kind of turns you on to some of that stuff. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know that in the book you spoke on seeing your aunt. And it was your aunt's boyfriend, or your uncle?
My aunt's husband.
Okay, your aunt's husband. So tell me a little bit about that. Growing up, being in that environment, getting turned on to that. Let's talk about the first time you got turned on to that.
Growing up in Virginia Beach too. You said Norfolk, but I want to say
Virginia Beach. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Because I know people hate me for that. They be like, "Hey man, you don't even say Norfolk."
Yeah. It is different.
I had grew up. My first time running across it was when I walked into the living room. Well, actually, let me take you back. Out Twin Canal at my mother's house, I had stumbled across looking under the couch, and I saw a plate. And in this plate, it had some, it was a white substance, and I saw a straw. And I really didn't understand what that was at the time when I saw it, because I'm like, what is baking soda doing under the couch? And until I end up seeing some substance under my stepfather nose, and then I put two and two together. And then when I goes to my grandma's house where my uncle was, where he was getting it in, I walked downstairs and he was smoking a brown paper, which later I found out which was actually blunts back then. And he was sitting in the living room. He was counting 250,000. And he had the same white substance, but in a much bigger quantity. So I was like, oh, okay, that's the stuff that's under the couch, and I started putting it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine as a child that was a difficult thing to kind of stumble across, especially underneath the couch. Nobody's thinking that, right? It's like I was maybe a toy, maybe some change, but that was a little different. You know what I mean?
It was.
Well, and you also talked in the book where, going to school, just how, it was very interesting. You're an athlete in school, a great athlete in school. And, but that wasn't your highlight. You talked about the fact that people saw you in these clothes and jewelry and the cars. That's what mostly excited people, not how you perform, during sports. So that kind of turns your attention a little bit too. Talk to me about that.
So, out our neighborhood, it was the thing of everybody wanted to play sports, everybody wanted to be the best athlete, but we didn't have that person who actually made it. You know, we had this guy by the name of Kevin Blandon. He was like one of the top notch high school football players when I was in junior high, and like, I wanted to be him. For sports because how good he was on the field. But then when I saw like the Michael Jordans and all of them, and they both had the money, I'm looking at, okay, well, why don't Kevin got this money? Realizing that he's in high school. So when I'm seeing my uncle and I'm seeing him counting 250,000, I'm like, okay, well, he's an athlete, and I already know for him to become an NFL star, he got to go through college, he got to work hard, and then finally get to that point to be a superstar. My uncle, I'm looking at his 250,000. I'm like, yo, this is my reality right here. Like, I can touch this 250,000. So,
Yeah.
I think it more so is the reality of being able to see the money and be able to touch the money and figure if my uncle got it and I can get it. And right from looking at Kevin Blandon and don't have no money, I'm like, I think that was the easiest route, not knowing that that's the worst route.
Yeah. I mean, and I think as a younger, you don't really put the two and two together. Like you see, yo, this is the best route. This is the best, direction. I'm going to take that. And so I thought that when I read that in the book, I'm like, most youth see that. Most youth deal with that growing up. Like, hey, I see the faster route. I'm going to take that, not realizing sometimes I can put you in a different position and lead into that. So, you talked about how in the book, Malice pulled you to the side during some time to talk to you about, hey, asking you about your involvement, or were you worried about things catching up to you? And you said at the time he didn't know that you were still in the game.
Yeah.
He didn't know, and you were very honest with him, like, hey, I'm still, I'm saying, like,
Yeah, I'm still shaking.
I'm still shaking. Things dried up, but um, I think during that time is when Malice started doing that shift where he's at now. And I like the fact that you said, hey, you looked at him like, man, this guy's, he's really religious and this and this and that. And, you was looking at him kind of funny, but you could respect where he was at. Um, in that time frame, when everything was happening, did it come to you and say, look, you got to stop what you're doing? You got to cut it out. We can't rock no more.
I think that was his time right there to pretty much say that, but he without saying it. Like he already saw, even though he didn't know, but he, had an idea because, it was going through the labor drama at the time, and then on top of that, he was also it was it was a recession in
Mm,
2008, going into 2009. It was a crazy recession, and I just bought an apartment, a high rise apartment in Miami, and just bought a Bentley.
mhm.
You know what I mean? When they, sitting there like, man, like we ain't getting no shows right now. It's recession, like without saying, yo, how you getting that?
Yeah.
So they pretty much, he pretty much was like, yeah. But now we was getting ready to also hop back into the music. So that was pretty much him saying, hey, yo, I don't know what's going on, man, but you might need to chill. You know what I mean? But he just put it different.
Yeah, yeah. You did talk about that in the book, where the high rides and the Bentley and all that, and even the watch you had on. He knew like this wasn't coming from the money that we're bringing in. It's a different type of money happening here,
Yeah,
which he can see because he understands the streets as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Speaking on that, so how's the relationship now with you and the brothers?
Um, I haven't talked to them in about, I want to say 3 years.
Yeah.
I've talked to them about 3 years.
Okay. Well, is there any, is it just that y'all haven't spoken, or is just that the relationship hasn't had the opportunity to mend itself?
It haven't had the chance to mend itself, but I think with me coming home on a thing of trying to get my life together, and us really not sitting down and having a conversation on what it is,
Yeah.
and basically, how I feel towards certain things and how they feel towards certain things. We all never had that conversation. And
Mhm.
the honest truth, I feel like sometimes when a person, and me not just saying, them, I'm just talking in general, feel that they don't need to have a conversation because it's not warranted. That that they feel like, that they can set it aside. But which I understand certain times when you got so much going on, and then I'm just coming back home and just things happen over the years. You know what I mean? Like you get new friends. Um, because like when you're in prison, everything seems to stop. And then for
Right.
people on the outside, the world keeps going on. So with me coming back and I'm trying to get started and their career, and then Malice is not with the music, but but wants to get back in, and then Pusha being the star he is, it just wasn't that time to just really sit down and I know, far as my mind, I'm thinking, um, all we're not having that conversation. I'm thinking all kind of things in my head. I'm pretty sure they thinking so many things in their head. And like I said, we just never ever got a chance to all to really sit down and just talk. I
Yeah.
still haven't seen Malice since I've been home,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and I actually used to talk to him the most when I was in prison.
Mm, mm.
You know,
Okay. Well, I hope you guys get the opportunity to really sit down and it's history there, obviously.
yeah.
I think,
But,
that.
they're my guys at the end of the day, man. I love them, man. Like I
Yeah.
can never say nothing bad about them.
Yeah.
Because like even in the back of the book, I even thank them, for even giving me the opportunity
Yeah.
to see the world.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, out of the 384 months, how much time did you actually serve to that?
I did
I
eight and a
did
half.
8.5. 8.5 out of the 32.
Ooh,
That's a blessing in
wow.
itself.
Man, like hitting the lottery
Yeah.
without getting the money. But hey, man, freedom is way more better.
Oh, for
Say
sure.
so.
For sure.
Say
Way,
so.
way better.
Mhm.
So 8 years out of the 32, what was you able to do to get out of that extended amount of time?
So if you read the book, I got sentenced. So the actual connect who was actually giving me the drugs, he ended up getting knocked off by the feds. He ended up getting caught, and when he get knocked off, he ended up telling on my whole family members, who everybody who was involved.
Yeah.
Far as not even my cousins and my other co-defendants, but also like the four women in my life that how the feds work. They just trumped up charges just to try to squeeze me. But me not knowing what they actually want, they didn't want any of my friends who didn't get picked up. They had wanted the connect who told on me had a partner. So his partner, he didn't want to tell him his partner. So he felt if he give me up and give my mother, my wife, my sister, and my aunt, he put them all in certain scenes of knowing what's going on in the operation.
Mm,
And so when they came to me and said that they'll give my family immunity in return for me to tell how the initial setup, how the initial meeting went between both connects, putting the other one at the scene, that they'll give them uh, um, immunity. So I end up cooperating on the other connect. So, but I end up getting sentenced to, because they couldn't promise me anything. So, I ended up getting sentenced to the 384 months. So once
mm,
I got sentenced to the 384 months and I went up the road, I was good with the immunity. So now I'm starting to do my time, because they end up saying, okay, we're going to take the life off, because the amount of drugs that he actually put on me, it's already tough. It was tough for me to win the case, because if somebody is giving you the drugs, they're going to believe everything that person is saying that they're giving me. You know what
right.
I'm saying? So everything stuck. Every amount, every gram stuck.
Mm,
So once they gave them immunity and I go up the road with the 32 years, 5 years later, they end up going to get his partner. So
mm,
when they end up going to get his partner, they wanted me to come to Phoenix to cooperate against, to actually, with the statements that I made about the general meeting, they wanted me to basically come to Phoenix and to sit down and testify on the stand to exactly what I made the statements on with his partner. But when I got there, he ended up pleading guilty, and I didn't have to go on the stand. So
mm,
then they came back and they cut my time to 16 years. But
mm,
so when they cut it to 16 years, just so happened the judge who sentenced me, another judge came to be the acting judge, and then the DA officer who actually busted me was from my neighborhood because he was a policeman.
mm,
They end up with my lawyer, end up going to the judge, writing up the statements and saying, listen, for y'all to take his time and only cut it to half, it needs to be more than that. So they filed a motion to get it to, to take the 50% off, because the reason why they was giving the 50% is because I didn't get on the stand. See, if I would have got on the stand and was able to testify, then that's saying, okay, he testified, so they don't know if that guy would have had some people come out and do some harm to me, do some harm to my family. Because when you're on that stand, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
But because I didn't go, so they like, well, hold on, he didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
So just because he signed up for it, we're going to give him the 50%. But now my lawyer and them came and said, well, hold on, he was the reason why that man. He was one of the reasons why that man pleaded out. You understand what I'm saying?
It wasn't a fear what you're going to say.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So they went that angle, like, no, you got to give him more than that because he touched the stand. It was he still was willing to go.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So when I got back to the compound, they ended up cutting my time to 10 years. So you do 8.5 off of the 10 years.
Okay,
Wow.
I see. And it's very interesting. The culture now, people say no snitching, no snitching,
Yeah.
don't snitch, don't snitch. And in this situation, you got snitched on, right? By the guy that was supplying you the drugs. Then his partner, they wanted him from not you really. They wanted him. So
Well, they won't go say that. So say that again.
they wanted his partner, not you.
Well, he gave them me.
Oh,
Right.
right.
So with him giving them me, he don't understand when they were investigating me, my phone is tapped too. The whole time that they're investigating him. Right. So my phone tapped. So when they go and get him, they already know about the partner and the whole nine. But he don't want to put it over there. You know what I mean? So he's trying to say, okay, he's the man, I'm giving it to him. But the people is like, well, hold on. No, what about your partner? But he acting like I don't know what's going, like he don't know what's going on.
Yeah, gotcha. So it wasn't necessarily that you were snitching; like they already knew for the most. They've been tapping your thing already. Because my next question is going to be the fear of how people are saying, "Man, don't snitch, don't snitch, don't snitch." They don't want to wear that flag, but you're willing to go and talk about. I mean, pretty much what they already knew. Was you worried about that, the snitching part?
So when I signed on, I already know what I was signing on for.
Right.
Right. And I, at the time I'm thinking, well, people will understand, right? But you gotta understand this: certain people who do understand, for them to be in the street, even if they understand, they can't say they understand. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you're in the street and and you still trying to whop and pop, a person will go be like, man, if you understand that, I ain't trying to deal with you. You understand what I'm saying? Not even knowing, because certain people don't even care that, all right, well, his mama was gonna go, his wife was gonna go to jail. No, but some people don't even care about that. You understand what I'm saying? But I always say to myself, I said I was willing to, whatever the repercussions was, I was cool with that as long as my family and everybody was cool. You know what I mean? Like that's just how my mind was set up. Like it is what it is. So when I'm doing it, so now when they come back and get that second chance for me to have to go on the stand to actually do it, it was already done. So by this time I don't have no choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I was scared. I was scared the whole time, man. I was scared. I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't scared.
That's honest.
Yeah.
That's honest.
I like that honesty, the transparency on that, because most people are like, nah, it is what it is.
It's all good. Look him.
Yeah,
No, definitely wasn't good. It definitely wasn't good.
Especially with people like Tekashi 6ix9ine, like he's very arrogant about it. You know what I'm saying? But I think this situation is different. Tekashi should never been there, like in that situation.
See, I always say, I don't mean to cut you off. I always said, what if I would have told them, man, nah, man, I don't know who the other partner is, because even how they came at me, they were like, oh, so you're willing to, and this what made me think about it. They said, so you're willing to take your life in prison because that's what you're gonna get. You know what I mean? Because even though I went to trial, they got life. Pleading out, they was trying to give me life because the amount of drugs. But they said, so the whole time you and your family's gonna be in prison, and this guy, he's gonna be out because he only got 10 years, which is the first guy.
Oh
So
wow.
he's gonna be out in 10 years, and he's gonna be still doing what he's gonna do, right? So I sat back and said to this right here, if I would have did that, and my family and stuff